When it comes to legalized bank robbing, I'm the best.
Bears fans, plug your ears. The Chicago Bears, as an organization, are a complete dumpster fire. From starting their season 0-3, their defense allowing 35 points per game, their offense can't get it going, their defensive coordinator allegedly having his house raided by the FBI, and getting over $100,000 worth of team equipment stolen from them. This organization is in complete disarray. And at the center of it all is a 24-year-old Justin Fields who has just been struggling to get it going so far this year. Let me make this very clear before we get going. Justin Fields has his flaws. I think that he holds on to the ball for too long at times, and I just think he struggles with overall game management. Obviously, his two biggest weapons are his deep ball accuracy and his ability to use his legs. Last season, as many of you know, he set the record for most rushing yards in a game by a quarterback with 178. And he also joined Lamar Jackson and Michael Vick as the only 1,000-yard rushers at quarterback in NFL history. Prior to the season, Dan Orlovsky had him as a dark horse MVP pick. Now, yeah, it sounds insane now, 3 weeks into the season, but back then, you could make the argument that it wasn't the most crazy take of the NFL offseason. Fast forward 3 weeks into the season, and now they're the laughingstock of the NFL. Now, who the hell do we blame for that? You could blame Bears GM Ryan Poles for hiring Matt Eberflus in the first place, who's a defensive-minded coach who seemingly had no plan in place to pair Justin Fields with the proper offensive coordinator. You could blame Matt Eberflus for hiring Getsy in the first place, but more importantly, I feel like right now he should be putting his foot down, telling the offensive coordinator that he needs to play more towards Justin's strengths. If not, they have absolutely zero chance of winning a game the rest of this season. Oh, and don't worry, we're going to get back to Luke Getsy in a second. When you have a young quarterback on your roster that you deem the future of your franchise, you do him a complete and utter disservice by not hiring a high-level coordinator or head coach who will do everything in their power to make their quarterback look good. Someone who will adjust the game plan to help flex their young quarterback's strengths. You can look at examples like Kyle Shanahan and Brock Purdy, Jordan Love and Matt LaFleur, Michael McDaniel and Tua, Brian Daboll and Josh Allen, Shane Steichen with Jalen Hurts, and now with Anthony Richardson, Trevor Lawrence and Doug Peterson, and Joe Burrow and Zach Taylor. Yes, I'm aware very little of these marriages are perfect, but they all share one common denominator: a commitment to helping your young quarterback look the best he can possibly be as he navigates potential roadblocks on the way to figuring out the game at the highest level. Obviously, the Bears failed at this part miserably. Yes, because they hired Matt Eberflus, a defensive-minded coach who came from the Indianapolis Colts prior to being hired, but more importantly, for hiring offensive coordinator Luke Getsy. Now let's get into Luke Getsy's job history real quick. All right, so I did a little bit of digging and I just want to see what stands out to you guys at first glance. Let's remove the 5 years that don't have the word coordinator in them, because that implies that he had no control over what was being called in the offense. Then if we look at the 2 years where he was the passing game coordinator for the Green Bay Packers, what the hell does that even mean when you have guys like Matt LaFleur and Aaron Rodgers, Nathaniel Hackett? Obviously, all those guys are actually calling the offense. I highly doubt Luke Getsy had anything to do with what was being called on that field. Then we look at his lone season where he was supposedly the offensive coordinator for the Mississippi State Bulldogs.
You know, the long year he was the offensive coordinator in college in 2018, he wasn't calling plays.
No.
Dan Mullen at Mississippi State was calling plays.
Here's what Joe Moorhead had to say about who was calling plays that year in 2018. Joe said, "I call the plays. I will get suggestions from those guys. In between series is when most of those suggestions will occur. Luke will have an overall grasp of the run and pass game, but his expertise lies in the pass game, and the rest of the coaches will work on protections, run game, and things like that." So there you have it, folks. Somehow Luke Getsy finessed his way into being an offensive coordinator in the NFL without ever having called plays for one whole season for a team at even the college level.
When it comes to legalized bank robbing, I'm the best.
How could you possibly explain having one of the 3 quarterbacks who rushed for 1,000 yards in a season and only calling 4 or 5, I think it was 5 design run plays through the first 3 games of the season? That's That's malpractice. That's completely unbelievable. And then you have your newly acquired star wide receiver, DJ Moore, talking to the opposing middle linebacker saying that he's not being used right.
Man, I miss tackling you, go gadget. They ain't using you right.
Yes, the offensive line struggles at times, but you have an offense with Khalil Herbert, Cole Kmet, DJ Moore, Darnell Mooney, and Justin Fields' legs, and you're telling me that this is the best you can come up with? So you're probably thinking that that means that I feel as if Luke Getsy deserves a majority of the blame. But I don't. The Chicago Bears have been in a constant cycle for the past what feels like 10 years.
They drafted a kid named Mitch Trubisky in 2017. Their coach at that time didn't believe in him, so they fired him and they brought in Matt Nagy. Didn't believe in him at all. Wanted to bring in Nick Foles. Absolutely ruined any chance Mitch Trubisky had of being a decent coach, being a decent quarterback. They decided to move on. Instead of getting rid of the coach and starting all over again, they draft Justin Fields, give Matt Nagy one more year for no obvious reason when everyone knew he had no chance. Then they fire him. Now they bring in another new coach. That adds up in the last 5 years to 2 first-round quarterbacks who came in with a lot of potential and needed good coaching and got none of it. So Justin Fields may or may not have been destined to be a great NFL quarterback, but he's been given absolutely no chance. They are ruining that kid because of complete organizational incompetence.
And until you address the true issue at hand, it doesn't matter if Tom Brady walks through that door. Nobody's going to be able to save this organization. Before we finish, I want to emphasize the part that bothers me the most. Justin Fields is 24 years old. He's a young quarterback trying to find his way through this league that is hard enough already when you have good coaching, good structure. And now that you have bad structure, bad coaching, it's a recipe for disaster. Yet, I see him being the laughingstock of all these talk shows, and it seems like everyone just wants to pile on him, and that just doesn't sit right with me, especially if you're a Bears fan. You have a guy who puts his body on the line every Sunday, gives it his all, tries his best, but can only do so much because he is structurally limited by the way the organization is set up. This kid puts his heart and soul out there every Sunday, and yeah, I get it. He's not the perfect prospect. He has a lot of flaws. There's a lot he needs to work on, but until he has the proper structure around him, we're just going to be looking at him as a potential bust. And I know a lot of people already have him labeled as that, but I think that that's completely unfair because of the millions of reasons I had just mentioned. Imagine you being in his situation right now and feeling like you don't know who really has your back. You don't know who's really looking out for your best interest, and your whole organization is a complete fucking mess. So long story short, before you point the fingers at Justin Fields, look at the organization around him who will just continue to abuse young quarterbacks in this league until they're able to figure it out.